Tommy Jones had always hated Dull Plymouth. It was a place where he felt depressed, and sometimes, this drove him to drinking. He was an evil, sinister man with a bad temper that always got him in trouble. His friends saw him as a good man, but sometimes, that monster in him showed itself a little. Once, he had brought his good friend back from the brink of death. That was only to make himself look like a good person. Tommy walked over to the window and reflected on his dreary surroundings. The snow flurried like running rats. Then he saw something in the distance, or rather someone. It was the figure of Carla Jones, his wife. She was on her way home from visiting a friend down the street from their home. Carla was a loving woman. She was perfect in every way, well, that's how she acted at least. As Tommy stepped outside and Carla came closer, he had anger in his eyes. "Where have you been?" Tommy demanded as she stepped onto the porch. "I was just visiting my friend," Carla whispered, almost too afraid to speak. She slid past Tommy and he followed close behind her. "I'm sorry," she said almost in tears. Tommy looked at her in the eye, the anger still there, and spoke in a grim tone, "Carla, I want you dead." Carla snapped up, making eye contact with Tommy. "What?" she cried. The fear in her was now at its max. "I'm tired of you. I know where you were, you was with James, don't lie." Carla just turned away from Tommy and stormed off into their room and started packing her belongings. "Where do you think you are going?" Tommy bellowed from the doorway. "I'm leaving, Tommy. You're drunk, and you are scaring me." Carla was now in tears. He started towards her and she grabbed the phone, making threats to call the police if he didn't back off. After her threat with the police, Tommy turned and went out of the room. After she had her things packed, she was loading up her car and had to go back in the house to get her last bag when all of a sudden, Tommy struck her across the head with a bat. Carla collapsed to the ground and then Tommy started his work. When Carla finally came around, she was tied up on a bed in their basement. Tommy stood against the wall with a smirk on his face. Carla tried to move but couldn't. Then, Tommy slowly walked over to her and opened a box that was sitting on the table near where she was. He carefully pulled out some gloves, a bottle with a red substance in it and a needle. Carla tried to scream but couldn't due to the tape that Tommy had put over her mouth while she was out. "It's okay, sweetheart. It will only hurt for a little while," Tommy told her in a soothing, yet sarcastic tone. As he filled the needle with the red liquid, Carla tried to fight out of her restraints but failed. Then she felt a sharp, agonizing pain in her arm as Tommy stuck the filled needle in her arm. Carla began to scream as the poison entered her body. Before she knew it, she was fighting for her and Tommy stood there smiling at her as she slowly died. When it was all over, Tommy untied her, dragged her into the garage and loaded her into his truck. He drove for about 20 miles in the dark to some woods and buried her there, making sure to leave no trace that he hadn't been there. When Tommy got home, he called the police and claimed that his wife was not home and not answering his calls. The next day, a search was started to find Carla. This went on for 2 months with no luck in finding her. When the search was called off, they told Tommy that they could not find her and that they pronounced her dead. When the officers left, Tommy had this smile on his face and went to fix himself a glass of whiskey, sat down and started to plan for his next victim.